Carleton's the president and owner of Dorothy Draper and Company. It's located in New York City, as most of you know. And Carleton, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, those of you who know me know that I like to play this very simply when I speak. I don't lecture. I once was a school teacher before I came to Draper. So if any of you know the Grand, you know it's a fantasy land. And and one of the things that I love about the Grand is because it goes to my head, because I dream in a land of fantasy. And people often ask me how I create these things. We don't do it out of a book. When we do a big project of a resort, a hotel, or a plane, or whatever we're working on, the inspiration all comes from one's head. And we sort of create with the magic of what we want to do before we ever even try to find the component parts. And it's like designing a stage set. You know, you read the script, and you then begin to create what you want to do. So when I see a room, for example, that we're going to do, or I visualize what a client is like, I dream rooms. And I honestly can go into somebody's home, even though they're not there, and I can tell you almost who they are. I can tell by the accessories, by the look of the room, by the colors that they have, who is that person that lives in that room. And I said this the other night, and I'm only using this Joan Crawford as an example at this stage, because there's this big movie everybody watches every week. Everything is about feud. It's her relationship with Betty Davis when they made the movie Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Now, I was Joan's decorator for 20 years. So I was a mere child when I got to meet her, and at that time she was Mrs. Steele. And she was the only client or only person that I knew at that particular stage that ever intimidated me, because she was on the board of Pepsi-Cola, and her husband was Alfred Steele, who ran, and I was 20 or something like that. And I went to her apartment to meet her, and she lived at 2 East 70th Street. I was not the decorator in Mommy Dearest. That was William Haynes, who had been her decorator before. And Billy Haynes had been a movie actor with her. So I was doing some sketches of what I felt was what her new apartment should look like. And it was sort of what I envisioned Hollywood to be, you know, a little bit on the upscale, a little glam, so to speak. And I presented it to her, and she looked at me and she said, Carleton. And I said, what? I never knew whether to call her Miss Crawford or Miss Steele or Lucille Lasser, who was her real name. And she said, no, Carleton, I only wanted it to be me. Now, as a decorator and a beginner at that particular time, one had to find out who the me was. Who was me? And I think that was it the actress? Who was she? And what presented her in her life was important. And I had to discover that. And when I had my School of Design at the University of Charleston, and I would have my incoming class come in to the young people, middle-aged people, older people coming back to school, I would give them an essay. And the essay always began this way. All you shiny faces, I want you to write me an essay about the very, very first room you remember. And in that essay, I want you to tell me what the room was, who was in the room. Did it have a hard floor or soft floor? Did it smell good? Was there music in the room? Did it have drapers? Did it have windows? Where did the windows look to? Did they look to the ocean? Did they look to the mountains? Or did they look to a brick wall? Tell me all those things. And because I grew up in the age of design before CAD machines, I would have the class with their eyes draw me a picture of that room. And you can use crayon, you can use pencil, whatever you want to use, but you can't use any machinery because I have to see how you see things. And it can be very Grandma Rose's-esque and be anything you want. It show me what you see perspective-wise. And they asked me after that why they have to do this essay. We keep we keep this papers for the time they're at the university. Because I believe, and I relate Miss Crawford to this, that in the very first room you remember is the beginning on foundation of your taste. And I don't believe there is good taste or bad taste, only taste. And what is pleasing to one person is not pleasing necessarily to another. So that taste to me is like fog. You know, you're in the moors of Scotland or you're in the sea looking at the fog rolls in and you see it and you can feel the texture, the wetness against your body, but you can never touch it. And so therefore, with trying to touch Joan Crawford's taste, I had to get back into where was the very first room you remember? Because no matter whether you want to get rid of it, save it, or whatever you want to do, it is always with you. And that makes what you think different from what you think. And what you like may be different from what the other person likes. But it always affects who you are. And the important thing about a house is that it be you. Because that is who you're trying to reach. Many people avoid being themselves. And many people reach out to escape what it was, and that's okay too, provided you understand that there is a you there that is always going to be there, because that's not going to change. Because you cannot rewrite that. You can rewrite this perspective. But I believe that there is a you factor that's very important personally in how you live. And making collections for very rich clients, oh, I know how to do that too. Because you go to Christie's or Sotheby's and there's a silver picture frames all on auction, and this is on auction and that's on auction, Battersea boxes come up, and you buy the whole collection. And you put it there all over in these shelves and so forth. Make it look wonderful, but the person who's living in the place never knew where anything came from and doesn't understand, it has no sensitivity and no real feeling for any of it. It's walking vacuously through an environment. It's like a stage set. When I worked with Miss Crawford, she was like a stage set because, you see this room? We would have to, Joan and I would go up to these places and she would have, with masking tape, masking out where the sofa was going to be, what the size of the end tables were, where the coffee tables were, and then we would walk through this as if it were a movie set without the furniture. And I learned a lot from her, from that ability to put together a scape that worked. You see, one of the things we do is we do roomscapes. We do landscapes, but we do tablescapes as well. So doing tablescapes, everything has to have a layered look. When you look at this Dorothy Draper bed, this was the bed that I first saw when Dorothy lived in the Carlisle Hotel. Her family had decorated the Carlisle Hotel, and when the Carlisle Hotel went broke, it was Roger Tuckman, her father, Paul Tuckman, who paid for all the expenses that the hotel couldn't afford to pay. So she ended up practically paying for a good deal of all of the accoutrements that went into the lobbies and so forth of the Carlisle. But Dorothy had an apartment, a fabulous apartment, with huge tall ceilings. And in the apartment was this bed. And this bed is a fantasy bed because she was fantasy. All of this Kindel collection that you will see, and right here on the wall that you will see, are photographs of Dorothy's apartment at the Carlisle. That was how she lived, and that was the bed. Now, we have taken those sketches as working with all of the Kindle people, Amy and Brinsley and everybody else in this room who works, and of course the Fishes, who, thank God that they are here to help us fund all of this. So we decided that we would come up with reproducing the Dorothy Draper bed. Now, I believe that beds are not just box springs and mattresses. While the millennial people may think so, you know, and they love all those polyester sheets, those no-iron sheets. I don't like polyester, you know. I don't like anything plastic. I don't even like plastic people. So part of the thing is, you know, they used to say, some people say, let's make the bed. I say, let's dress the bed. Because dressing a bed is like dressing you. So you start off with the bottom layer, and that can be your mattress cover. Then we begin with the sheet. And I may decide to put chocolate sheets on the bottom like you have on your, I think. And then I may overlay it with a white sheet that has a scallop border. So I begin that way. Then I add another accessory. I add the beautiful blanket. Now this blanket, this is a cotton blanket that, you know, I do a show for Home Shopping Network. I have to say that, and this is a blanket that I had on my last show. And it's 100% cotton because I don't like polyester. And it's a summer blanket, and it came in blue and pink and green, my favorite colors, and it was $29. So in any size. So it isn't a matter of what you spend. It's a matter of creating the look. So then you begin to lay the comforter. You take the comforter off in the summer, and you just have and then you lay the pillows. Now I know how to lay pillows. I know how to set the pillow so it has the kings in the right place, how to put them on the back, where the accessories go. So the accessories are your jewelry and your necklace and your shoes and your bags. That begins to dressing the bed too. So we have throw pillows, we have neck rolls, we have all those pretty things. So think in terms of dressing your bed, like you don't think of just let's make the bed. Think of dressing the bed like you dress yourself. And that's part of the detail of caring. I mean, this is a culture at the moment, this fast culture, nobody cares. They don't really care about setting a beautiful table. They don't even want the silver. They just want to melt it down and make it into something else or sell it in bars. And what's that man on TV who tells you about something? He's always on, he sells silver at bars. And what, I can't remember his name, but I turn him off. I go like this. But anyway, those are some of the factors of making caring. It's like, it's important to care. And I worry about the world when there's nobody who cares. Where will we be? They don't write letters anymore. They don't know how to send thank you notes. They don't know how to dress the bed. Can't even dress themselves. I mean, they think wearing ripped jeans is style. I mean, all of these strings and rags that hang on, and the way they wear their pants that come down without belts and so forth. I mean, is this a pretty picture? Or is this a pretty picture? I'm into pretty, let me tell you. My problem is I'm into pretty. So I grew up in Boston, and my grandmother had a wonderful house it was a wonderful house to me. It was on Commonwealth Avenue. It had the cold yard in the back. It wasn't air conditioned. And my granny had a room on the 3rd floor. I always talk about it because it's visual to me. And it was sort of a shellacked room. It had many cabinets. and it had these metal turns, not pretty. They wouldn't be the knobs that I would buy, but they were metal anyway. And my sister and I would go up to this floor. Have a sister who was a year older. And my granny also had very long hair, which we would like to comb, you know. And she'd nestle it, but she had hats that she'd take us to lunch at Stover's, but her hair was attached to the hat, so she never had to, I guess it was the beginning of the wig, but it was attached to the hat. So anyway, she had this room. And in this room were all these packages. They were all wrapped in brown paper, sometimes with strings, some with old tissue, and my grandmother never let a tablecloth be ironed because she didn't like the lines in it. So if I were with my grandmother and I was going to school or something, I never could go to school if I had a shirt that had an iron down the seam, because those had to be done on a sleeve board. So when I said to Granny, what are all those things we have on all those papers? And she said, those are the things we're saving for good. So when my grandmother died, nothing had ever changed. They were still up there waiting for good. So I decided in my life that I would use all the things that I have and enjoy them. So if you have those diamond rings that you must have, you just put them on and say, aren't they pretty? I like them. So everything is visual in life. So what you look at, you want to be as pretty as it can be. So whether it's on dressing yourself, or dressing a room, or dressing a table, or setting a thing, it's caring about your home. You know when the paint has to be done. You know when a room has to be repainted. You know it. And you know when Kindel has a beautiful new bed. I'm hoping that a bed isn't box springs and mattresses without a headboard. So we have headboards here. We have wonderful color. And so when they decided to go ahead in 2000 to do a Dorothy Draper collection, part of the thing was vintage was hitting the high road. But now anything Dorothy Draper original, whether you go to eBay or whatever it is you see, a chest, an Espana chest of drawers is $6,000. I went out to California, to La Cienega once, for a show, to an antiques thing, and they had a pair of chests that came out of the Dorothy Draper, one of the suites at the Greenbrier when we were refinished. They had disposed of these things. I don't know why they ever did, they were crazy. But each of the chests was $25,000. And they had the big hardware runner. And I went back to show somebody, and they'd sold them, sold the two of them. So it's the value of what it is. I think, as far as this collection that we do here, this collection is today's collectible, tomorrow's heirloom. Because the quality of what it goes into these is really perfection. If you knew what their factories were like, the carvers that still exist, all the things that Kindel does, there's nothing on the market that compares to the quality, believe me. Just as I know the 500 thread sheets on my HSN show last week are great. I mean, you can't beat it. And all of the things that you will see here in this collection and in the way we live and the way we express it has to do with magic, and it has to do with fantasy, and it has to do with color. And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. So that's it, folks, as Walt Disney says.